I'm sitting here with no makeup on, so you know this video's finna get messy. That, and it's a video by Brittany Ramone, so obviously it's going to be very, very cringy and messy. So, that being said, welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. For those of you that don't already know me, my name's Brittany. If you're new here, feel free to leave a like, drop a comment, and consider subscribing, because that'd be really cool, and it'd help me out a lot. Don't be afraid to hit that little notification bell to get notified every single time that I post, because it is very, very rarely, if ever, because unfortunately I am a very busy person. It is September at the date of this recording. September is National Recovery Month, so I wanted to record this video, coming completely clean about not being clean. For those of you that don't already know me, I have several videos where I've sort of explain / vent about my situation where I was arrested for hotboxing car with dabs / THC concentrates in the state of Florida. After being arrested, I got out after about like a day or two, and I was put on 12 months of probation. Now during those 12 months of probation, I have to call this phone number every single day for the next 12 months. Whenever I call this number, I enter in my ID number, and then I hit 1, and then it says either you're required to test today or do not test today. So that's called a random UA. So I am subject to random UAs, so every single day I have to call this number to find out whether or not I get drug tested today. So yeah, that being said, I'm clean. As of the time that I'm recording this, I am high from, like, dabs, weed. I am a medical marijuana patient, so no, as per a majority of, you know, addicts' definition of what is clean, I am not clean, because I still actively use a substance that alters my mind. Therefore, I'm not sober. Therefore, you know, I'm high. Like, I use marijuana on a day-to-day basis because I am prescribed it medically. But other than that, like, I'm completely clean because, for one, I have to be, but for two, this is what I realize is best for me. Like, I'm gonna start from the beginning. The very first thing that I ever used was alcohol. Like, before I ever smoked cigarettes, before I ever even smoked weed, before I did cocaine, before I did anything. I will tell you, in this video, I will be telling you every single drug I have ever done in my entire life. And I'm going to try to make it very short because there's a lot of them. So, just go down the list. First one was alcohol. I was with my ex-boyfriend at the time, my very first boyfriend, and his friend, and I snuck out of my house with them at about 12 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the morning, went to the park near my house, and we drank some of the alcohol that he stole from his parents, and I just remember feeling really, like, I felt really happy. I felt really good, I'm not gonna lie, in that moment. I'd, like, lay down, and the world just kind of spun around me. I didn't have very much to drink, but then again, keep in mind, I was about 12 or 13 at the time, so it didn't take very much for me to get drunk. I was just a little kid, but I enjoyed it, and yeah, that was that. The next morning, I threw up, and it was a great time. So the next drug I did would be nicotine. So I started vaping, I started smoking cigarettes, basically a combination of the two, on and off from age 13 until age 17? 17 or 16. Yeah. It was mostly an everyday thing, but it would go for, like, spans of a few months, and then I'd stop smoking for a few months, and I'd pick it back up, and that just continued like that from 13 to 17, 16. Okay, then the next drug I did was marijuana. The first time I ever had marijuana was an edible, unfortunately. It was a gummy frog about this big. It had, like, sour stuff on it. I split it in half, because the person who I bought it from got it from Colorado, supposedly. It was in packaging. I was, like, 13, 14 at the time. I didn't give a fuck. I was like, weed? Okay, I'll try it. So I split it with my friend. I doubt she'll be watching this, but if you are, you know who you are, bitch. She had already tried marijuana at that point. So we split the gummy frog, and it was right before PE. So we had, like, 2 hours of PE because it was testing time. I think it was, like, the SAT or, like, the FCAT, some weird shit. It was, like, a charter school. Anyway, so we had, like, 2 hours of PE. So we took it, like, half an hour before PE. And boy, we literally sat on those bleachers, and I remember just looking at her and just smiling, and she just turned to look at me, and we would just start laughing, literally for no fucking reason beyond the fact that we were both, like, we both knew that we were fucking gone. Like, it wasn't a whole edible, but it was a half edible, and we're both, like, 13, 14 years old, and, like, we don't really smoke like that. We don't ever smoke. I had never smoked in my entire life. I had never done any drug like that, besides alcohol and nicotine. So we were geeking. Like, we would just turn to look at each other, and then we would just start laughing, and everybody around us knew. Like, obviously we were fucking high as shit, because, like, we were just being ridiculous. Like, I just remember going outside for the PE finally, and then it started to sprinkle, like, halfway through, and I just remember, like, looking up into the sky as it starts sprinkling, and I started crying, but, like, not in, like, a sad type of cry, or, like, an angry type of cry, but, like, my heart just sort of, like, swelled up, and I felt, like, really happy, and, like, really appreciative of, like, the beauty of the world. Like, I just saw everything as really astounding and, like, childlike, almost. Everything was just, like, I was seeing it again for the first time. Like, something about the rain, and, like, it being perfectly, like, it was a really bright, sunny, beautiful day, and it just started sprinkling out of nowhere. So I just remember looking up and, like, not, like, sobbing, but, like, you know, tears were rolling down my face, just because I was, like, struck by I don't know, I was high as fuck, dude, and I was, like, 13, 14, I was just, that's how it was. I'm just telling you how it was. Okay, so the next drug would be cocaine. The first time I ever did cocaine, I was with my ex-girlfriend. She was about 18 years old, 18 or 19, and I was about 13, 14. Looking back on that now, that's definitely illegal. She was kind of definitely a pedophile. But, at the time, you know, we smoked or whatever, we'd play a lot of video games, did, like, girl stuff, and she was, like, my best friend mostly, but we were also girlfriends, so we did relationship shit too. But, like, one day we were going to a concert together with her other friend, and she was, keep in mind, she was, like, 4 or 5 months pregnant at the time. And she said that she can't do the cocaine that she has because she's fucking pregnant. So she asked me and her friend if we wanted to try it because we had never tried it before, and she knew that. And she didn't want to do it because she's pregnant, which, I mean, she was smoking weed while she was pregnant, but at least she wasn't doing cocaine, I guess. Fuck. Anyway, so we, you know, it was for a concert, so I was like, I guess this is the best setting to do it, because that's what people do. So we did it in the bathroom of this random-ass hotel. Like, we literally just walked in, asked if we could use the restroom, and they were like, sure, it's right around the corner. So we went around the corner, used the restroom, and then we just put the lines on the sink of that random-ass hotel bathroom, and then we snorted it, and then walked back to the concert like nothing happened. But, like, I started to get really stuck in my head, like, once we got to the concert, because, like, people always, like, you know, look at each other, like, it's normal for people to do, because they're, you know, always examining their surroundings, always examining the people around them, and because I was on this substance, I was overthinking the people just, you know, examining me, and I just, you know, got really stuck in my head that, like, oh, they know that that I just did this drug, oh, they know that I have weed on me, oh, they know, like, I just started to get very, very paranoid about, like, the people around me, and even about, like, my relationship with her and, like, her best friend, and I just started to overthink anything and everything in that moment. So that's when I started to realize, you know, like, maybe cocaine is not for me. But a year or so later, I would pick it back up, and I never really made a habit of it. Like, I would just do it, like, at parties. Like, I would never pay for it, basically. Like, if somebody offered me it, then I'd be like, sure, but I never found myself, like, actively spending money on it or buying it. Like, it never became an actual habit for me, is what I'm saying. It was just like if it's there, and it you know, I see other people do it, and they're having, you know, no severe reactions, so I know it's, you know, not something deadly, then sure. But otherwise, I'm not gonna go out on my way to go and purchase it. Anyway, the next drug would have been, I believe, mushrooms, or I can't remember if I did mushrooms first or LSD first. And honestly, I have no way of telling whether or not it was real LSD or if it was research chemical, but I've tripped on acid, or what I believe to be acid, because I've never actually tested any, because I'm just dumb. You should always test everything that you try or do, but what I believe to have been acid, several times that I've tripped on pieces of paper, like, I'd say at least 10 times, 8 to 10 times. I've had probably 1 or 2 of those times were bad trips, and then the rest were good trips, or at least, if they weren't good, they were, like, nice. Like, they weren't bad, so that was something. Acid's cool, I guess. I kind of prefer shrooms. Shrooms make me really, like, which is the next one that I tried after acid. Shrooms make me feel more giggly and, like, bubbly and just, like, outgoing, and, like, they make everything funny for absolutely no fucking reason. Like, whenever I'm on shrooms, cartoons that I would normally watch and just, like, laugh occasionally at, like, I would now watch on shrooms, and I would just, they would be so fucking funny. Like, I would piss myself just laughing. Like, my boyfriend would make a dumbass joke, like a dad joke, and I would just find it to be the most absolutely hilarious fucking thing. Like, shrooms just make everything into a joke. Shrooms make things, like, then again, I've had people say the exact opposite. Like, it depends on how your brain works. Like, some people say that they love acid and that it makes them really, you know, outgoing and bubbly and happy, and, like, marvel at the world and shit, and that shrooms give them a bad trip. So, like, everybody's different. Like, don't take what I say or what anybody else says as Bible. Like, you have to find out for yourself, because everybody's wired differently. So, like, different substances everybody will react to differently, because chemicals. So yeah, the next drug that I did after LSD, shrooms, and all of the others, I believe was heroin. I think I did, like, things like cough syrup and, like, you know, over-the-counter, you know, Benadryl. Like, I tripped on over-the-counter stuff around the time I was doing psychedelics, but not at the same time ever, but I'm just not going to include those because, let's just say on the cough syrup trips, there was a lot of vomiting and, like, a lot of weird hallucinations that I don't really want to talk about. That can be for a whole other video. So, moving on to heroin. I don't even think that it was ever heroin that I tried. The first time I ever tried heroin, my father gave it to me. I was about 15 years old, and I was living with my father, who, as you guys know, is a homeless drug addict. At the time, he was kind of staying on the couch with my family friend. I'm not going to say his name, obviously. And I was staying with him for a few months with my boyfriend. And my dad has been an intravenous drug user for pretty much my entire life that I know of. And this particular time, he was he had, heroin and cocaine, and he was, he basically would get a spoon, and he'd bend the bottom part of the spoon, like the actual handle, and then he'd have distilled water, and he'd have cotton, and then he'd have the heroin, and he'd have the cocaine, and he'd just sort of heat it up in the spoon, draw it up in a syringe, and then he'd tie off, like, his bicep, or just above where his, you know, his elbow or the crook of his arm is. He'd find, you know, whatever veins weren't already collapsed that were, completely fucked by this point, and he would shoot up in front of me. And he would show me how to do it, and ask if I wanted to do it, and I never have shot up anything, just for the record. I'm gonna say that right now. I have never shot up a single thing in my entire life. The only thing I've ever shot up is my vitamin B12 injection, and that's in my ass cheek, bro. That's completely different. Like, I've had vaccines. I'm terrified of needles, and I feel like that's because of what I watched my dad do. Like, I really do not like needles. And I mean, I'm a vet tech, so like I can put needles in like other people and animals, but like not in myself. Like, I don't like, I'm okay with tattoos and piercings, but like, anyway, it's a whole nother video. Fuck. But yeah, so I asked him if there was any other way to do it besides shooting it up, and he told me you could smoke it or you could snort it. And so I tried snorting it, but it was like, he had like it was like a pale brown, like, it almost felt like, you know that kinetic sand stuff? It was like that, but it wasn't kinetic, obviously. It was like it was soft. It was like, so it was hard to snort. Like, it wasn't like a powder. It was, like a, not like a tar, but like almost like a Play-Doh, like a doughy consistency. So it was a hard time snorting it, so we ended up smoking it. Basically grabbed tin foil and heated up the bottom, used the straw, and then whenever the smoke rose off the heroin in the tin foil, you just inhaled it through the straw, and it felt really good. I'm not gonna lie, but then I started getting really itchy, and then I started to, feel really sick, really nauseous. My boyfriend started to just vomit, my dad started to just vomit, and over the years, I'd seen my dad overdose quite a lot. Like, the room that I'm sitting in right now, it was his bedroom. Right now, it's my boyfriend's bedroom, but this room used to be my dad's bedroom for almost my entire like, once my mom died, we moved in with my grandparents, and he lived upstairs, which is in the room I'm in right now. And, I would come up here and watch him shoot up. And he'd overdose a lot. I'd watch him fall down the stairs. My grandparents would have to help him up and down the stairs, and I'd come up here to visit with them sometimes, and he'd just be nodding out, and sometimes he'd be seizing, and the place where I was living at with him with a family friend, they would have to bust down the door because he'd lock it to shoot up, and then they'd go in, and he'd be foaming from the mouth, his eyes were rolling back in his head, and he's just kind of shaking, and they have to give him Narcan. He had a lot of seizures. I don't get how my mom died just by one time, and my dad can survive time after time after time after time. So yeah, anyway. After that, I went and tried to find it from other people, but it always ended up being fentanyl or some other bullshit because it made us even more sick, so I never really stayed, doing heroin for long. I tried it, like, a few times. I'd say I snorted it, like, 5 or 6 times, and then I smoked it probably 5 or 6 times. And then it's, all the fentanyl started going around and everything, people started dying more, so then I just really got scared out of doing it, and I'm so glad that I did, because I'd probably be dead by now. But yeah, heroin, cocaine never really lasted long with me. So the final drug that I've tried is meth. Meth is the worst drug I have ever let myself do. A lot of people, I did pills too, I didn't add that one in, but like, pills were around the same time I was doing heroin, and that's what I went to after, the heroin was being cut with all the bullshit. Like, I started doing, like, Klonopin and Xanax and so benzos, and then I started doing, like, hydros, oxys, so, like, opiates, and all of that shit, but that was just to, replace the heroin, and then eventually I got off of that as well. So then I got into meth. Meth and MDMA, or Molly. So Molly, MDMA, meth, they're different things. They're all amphetamines, so they're all different types of amphetamines, but they're not all methamphetamines. Meth is the only methamphetamine. So the only difference really is the amount of amphetamine salts that they have. That they have. The first time I tried meth, I was living with my dad, and one of my childhood friends was on it, and I didn't know, and one day he was like, have you ever tried monkey? I didn't know what monkey was. I was like, what the fuck's monkey? And he was like, it's kind of like Molly, and I was like, oh, well, I like Molly. I'm down to try monkey. So, he also called it ice a few times. I didn't know that ice and monkey were other words for meth. So, at the time I didn't know that it was actually meth because he was calling it ice and monkey. And he just said it was a lot like Molly and MDMA. So I did it. I snorted it. And he warned me. He told me that it kicks like an ass. Because I told him I'd snorted, like, I snorted pills, I snorted cocaine, I snorted, things before. But I've never snorted anything like meth. Like, I've even snorted, like, chili powder as a kid, out on dares, and I thought that burned. This was nothing. It burned so bad. I thought there was a hole in my nose. I thought I had a nosebleed. I didn't have a nosebleed, but it felt like my nose was bleeding. Like, it burned. Like, it didn't burn here. It burned all the way up through in here. Like, that's where I felt it. And then I just remember, like, it formed into, like, a hard, like, snot in my nose. Like, I would have... Sometimes whenever you do cocaine, you get, like, some coke boogers. But, like, these, like, meth boogers are, like, rocks. They're, like... It's, like, ugh. I don't even want to... Ugh. And, like, the drip that goes in the back of your throat is, like... Ugh. Like, if you've ever done... I hope none of you have ever done cocaine. But given my viewership, probably have. And if you have done cocaine, and you think the drip from coke is bad, the drip from meth is... Ugh. It's like, it tastes like what I would expect battery acid to taste like. Or, like, gasoline, or... Ugh. I don't even want to... I don't want to think about that. It's kind of triggering. So yeah, we snorted it, and I just remember I looked up at him, and he just started smiling, and he was laughing, and he was like, how was that? And I was like, I just remember I was looking at, my eyes got wide, and I was like, I feel great. I gotta do something. I don't know what I need to do, but I need to do something right now. That's just how I felt. Like, I remember my boyfriend had been telling me for the past several days he wanted a haircut. So I was like, let me cut your hair. I cut this poor man's hair for at least 4 hours straight. I sat there and I cut his hair with a pair of scissors 4 hours straight because no matter how hard I worked to cut his hair, it was not cut perfectly enough. Like, I had always seen memes, like, about Adderall and about meth, and how, like, there will be, like, memes of people cutting their grass with, like, scissors, and I never really understood it, but once I tried it, I was like, I get it now. I understand. If I kept doing it, which I did for about 6 months, which is why it is the worst drug I have ever let myself do, because it's the only drug I ever became fully mentally and... What's the lighting doing? Fully mentally and physically dependent upon, besides marijuana. I mean, marijuana I'm definitely dependent upon, but meth gave me the worst physical, mental, and emotional, spiritual side effects of any other drug I've done. So that first day was like, whoa, wow, it was really, a rush, and I felt like I was getting a lot done, but really I was getting nothing done. I was just spending a lot of time on getting nothing done. I felt like I had, like, this superpower, like, I was just superior, like, I could do anything and everything, but I was doing absolutely nothing. So then that's when I started doing it more. And I stopped sleeping, and I stopped eating. And then I started to see things, and I started to hear things, and I would feel things in my skin, so I would pick my skin raw. I would start to, like, see things moving in the walls. It started with my dad. my dad was on it the most, and he was on it for the longest amount of time. And he would ask us if we could see the wall moving, and we would be like, no. Because, like, at the time we were high, but we weren't as high as him. And that's when I started to get a little bit scared, but I just kept doing it. Because I kind of wanted to see whatever it was he was seeing. Like, that was kind of my objective with trying all of these drugs, was to see. For one, my mom died on drugs. Like, she died from, like, an overdose / drug toxicity. So part of me was this morbid curiosity that wanted to see what was it about drugs that was so unique, that was so special to her, that she chose drugs over her own child. Like, I wanted to see what was so important, what was so special about these substances that she would rather do them and risk her own life than to take care of me, you know? That, and same thing with my dad. Like, he destroyed I watched him just give up on life, basically, over drugs. And I wanted to see, like, what was so unique about these drugs that would make them just throw everything away like that. Like, it had to have been something mind-blowing for them to just do all of the shit that they did. I wanted to see what all the commotion was about, so I followed directly in their footsteps, because they weren't really there to tell me, and they didn't want to talk about it, and my mom couldn't talk about it, because she's fucking dead because of it. So it's like, I had no answers, and I wanted answers, so how was I gonna get those answers? I was gonna go out and find out my own fucking self. And that's exactly what I did. So yeah. I might do separate videos on each and every different substance. Like, because they all, honestly, I have experiences that saved my life. Like, that's the thing, I do regret having done all of these things, but I also don't, because I've gained probably too much knowledge, but I've gained a lot of knowledge, like, I gained the experience that I wanted to gain to begin with. I basically got what I wanted. You have to be careful what you wish for, and I got what I wished for. I understand now why they let it take hold of their lives. But I also understand now how important it is to not let it do that, and I understand how important it is to help other people to not let it do that. And that's really the whole point of September of Recovery Month, is to reaffirm that fact. There are people dying because of this, you know. My dad isn't dead yet because of it. My mom is. My dad's headed there. And a lot of other people are too. I'm not the only one. You know, my story isn't special. There are other people with the same story or similar stories as me. And they're just not all out there. So I kind of want to put mine out there. So if this resonates with anybody, you can know that you're not alone, because it really sucks to feel alone. Especially in a world this fucking big. I love you guys so much. I'm sorry if I don't respond to your comments. There's just a lot of negativity and a lot of hate. Again, I know I'm not the only one that goes through that, but, like, it's hard to see the positive through all the bullshit sometimes. I hope you guys forgive me and understand that. You mean the world to me. I really hope you're doing well. Please stay safe. Please take care of yourselves. Say something nice to somebody. Remember, if you can't be good, you better be good at it. I love you.